Shalom, everybody. Good Erev Shabbos. This week's Parsha, Parshas Tisa. Our learning today should be L'schos Refuah Shalema for Moshe Aaron ben Leah Bela and all of his friends who are injured in Gaza. They should all have Refuah Shalema Bakarov and bring home the Shvuyim b'nei Adarim and just Basuras Tovos for Am Yisrael, Nitzachon and Geula. So, Parshas Tisa, we have the difficult story of the Chet HaEgel. Vayidaber Moshe, Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe, Lech reid kishiches amcha asher ha'alisa me'eretz Mitzrayim, soru maher min haderech asher tzivisim. So we learn about the great tragedy of the Chet HaEgel, when Am Yisrael miscalculated the time of the pending return of Moshe Rabbeinu, and they were goaded on by the frightening specter of Moshe Rabbeinu deceased, contrived by the Satan. And in a short moment of acute panic and frenzy, they veered recklessly off the special and chosen course paved for them by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Moshe comes down from the mountain and calls out, Mi L'Hashem Elai, Vayomod Moshe Bashar HaMachana, Vayomer Mi L'Hashem Elai, Vayasfu Elav Kol B'nei Levi, Vayomer Lahem, Ko Amar Hashem Elokei Yisrael, Simu Ish Charba Al Yerecho, Ibru, Vashuvu mishar lashar b'machane v'hirgu ish es achiv v'ish es re'ehu v'ish es krovo. Vayasu b'nei Levi kidvar Moshe vayipol min ha'am bayom ahu kishloshes alfei ish. So we have all of Shevet Levi immediately mobilized to Moshe Rabbeinu's side. They courageously armed themselves and carried out what they had to do, killing off all of the idol worshippers, regardless of who they were and how closely related they were to them. Shevet Levi thus saved Am Yisrael from annihilation. And I ask, where was everyone else? When we examine the Psukim, it's apparent that only a small fraction of the people had actually sinned. Only 3,000 men out of a nation that numbered over 500,000. Only 3,000 were killed off. So where was everybody else? Why did no one except for Shevet Levi come forward and respond? So that's the question. And in order to answer this question, and the question of what is leadership in the larger sense, we must look back to the beginning, to Shevet Levi's story from their birth. In Parshas Vayetze, in Sefer Bereshis, Vatar Leah, Vateled Ben, Vatikra Shmo Reuven, Ki Amra Kira Hashem Ba'ani, Ki Ata Yehavani Ishi. That's Leidas Reuven. Vatar Od Vateled Ben, Vatomar Ki Shama Hashem Kisnua Anochi, Vayiten Li Gametze, Vatikra Shemo Shimon. And then the third son, Vatar Od Vateled Ben, Vatomar Ata Hapam, Yilave Ishi Elai, Ki aladati shlosha banim al kain kara shmo Levi. Al kain kara, that's without a hey. The Medrash notices this. Rashi notices this. Kara shmo Levi, the Medrash says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu kara shmo. Lefisha haya ben beso. Rashi, v'tamati shebukulan kasiv kara v'tikra. If you examine all the other shvatim except for Binyamin, it says either Kara Lashon Nikeva or Vatikra also Lashon Nikeva. The Zeh Kasubo Kara, this is without a hey. So who is the one that called Levi his name? So I'm going to leave the answer. We'll get to it at the end. Some say that it was Yaakov, and we heard the Medrash say that it was HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ba'atzmo. But I want to move on from there and go see at the end of the Sefer Bereshis, in Parshas Vayechi, we can see that Levi's course was not a smooth one. He, in Parshas Vayechi, was strongly reprimanded by his father Yaakov Avinu on his deathbed. Shimon v'Levi achim klei chamas mecheroseim, besodem al tavi nafshi, b'kaholam al techat kvodi, ki ba'apam hargu ish uvertzonam ikru shor. Oror apam, it's cursed. Their off, their rage. Ki oz, v'rosam ki kashasa, achalkem b'Yakov v'afitzem b'Yisrael. He rebuked them, Shimon v'Levi, for the impulsive way they handled the Shechem scandal, while Yaakov Avinu did not directly address Levi's motivation. He clearly, severely renounced his means of implementation. So as we come to the close of part of Sefer Bereshit, the direction of Levi's passionate, headstrong nature was yet unclear. And then comes Sefer Shemos. Sefer Shemos opens, and right away we hear about Am Yisrael in Mitzrayim doing very well. Ubnei Yisrael paru vayishutu vayirbu vayatzmu b'ma'od ma'od vatimalei ha'aretz osam vayakam melech chadash al Mitzrayim asher lo yada es Yosef vayomer al amo hine am b'nei Yisrael rav atzum mimenu hava nischak malo pen yirba v'haisa v'haya ki sikrenu milchama v'nasak gam hu al sonenu v'nocham banu v'ala min ha'aretz. Paro is concerned. Hava nischak malo. He basically declares war on Am Yisrael. Hava nischak malo, but not outright war, psychological and sneaky warfare. And he goes and tells them Yaldo, so we know. And then we hear about the emerging of the leadership of Moshe Rabbeinu. Vayelech Ishmi Beis Levi, Vayikachas Bas Levi, the remarriage of Amram and Yocheved, who are not called by name, but they're identified to Beis Levi. So that's like quite a contrast from the end of Sefer Bereshis, where Or Apam, and then Vatar Isha Vateled Ben Vatera Kitov, also Kitov, that Moshe Rabbeinu was born, and Kitov and the Bayis Malei Or. So we have this contrast here. And we wonder what happened in the meantime, Shevet Levi, and we hear from the Mefarshim about things that were going on in those years in Mitzrayim. We hear it also from the Dasikanim and also from the Tzror Hamor. They quote the Rambam. Now, the Rambam, I looked for the Rambam. I think we have a different gears of the Rambam because I couldn't find it. But they clearly say the Sefer HaRambam Zal Omer Avraham Masar Kabbalah Satorah liYitzchak, v'Yitzchak liYakov, v'Yakov liLevi. That the Mesiras of the Torah went by Avraham, who taught it to Yitzchak, and Yitzchak to Yaakov, and Yaakov to Shevet Levi, to Levi. V'Zaro Hoshivu Yeshivos. The children of Levi set up yeshivos in Mitzrayim. Shelo Paska Mehem Torah Klal. They never stopped learning Torah all those years. Ulefichach lo nishtabdu b'Mitzrayim shelo asku b'melacha b'yamehem. They never got involved in melacha in the slave with the bondage. Ki im batorah, because they were always studying Torah. Instead of we know how the shibut started. We know the Medrash tells us how Paro came with his sweet talk, with around his neck strung a brick, and encourage everybody to join him on a new project that they're doing for the public works. And everybody got involved, and everybody was excited, and they worked themselves to the crisp. And the next day, and finally he just made them work, and it became they had to do as much as they did on the first day out of all that excitement. But instead of intermingling with the society in this cultural exchange, or whatever we want to call it, Shevet Levi spent their time immersed in Torah study and Avodas Hashem. And when Paro approached the Jewish people with all his sweet talk, cajoling them into slave labor, Shevet Levi was immune to all the overtures. They had no interest in pandering to Paro. They were immersed in a world far, far away from the chagigot and the fanfare and the status searching and the position and the careers and the money making. And by the way, by resisting enrollment in Paro's so-called public workforces, they gave up their rights to food allowances. This is explained by the Sefer Levi Eliyahu, Rav Eliyahu Lapian, who says they survived in Galus Mitzrayim without perishing from hunger, only through the generosity of their fellow Jews. Am Yisrael understood how important it was that one part of the nation remained completely devoted to Avodas Hashem, untouched by the whole Egyptian scene. Doesn't this remind us of the Holocaust? A book that I highly recommend is Ila Shalom Nichnu'u, Those That Never Surrendered, written by Rav Moshe Prager. He tells how in the Warsaw Ghetto, the Ger Hasidim and other Hasidim, they understood the importance of Torah learning, and they went underground in the bunkers, and they learned Torah. They had kollalim there, and the only way that they didn't have their rations, because they never enrolled in the work, they also didn't want to be vater on their beards, and how enraged the Nazis were when they came, when the ghetto war, the Warsaw Ghetto uprising fell, and they came to just clear out everything, and when those Hasidim, Tzaddikim emerged from the ground, they couldn't stand what stood before their faces. Jews that still had their beards on. Anyways, I recommend everyone to read that book. So Moshe Rabbeinu, Mi Hashem L'Hashem Elai, the Netziv explains Moshe Rabbeinu's question. Who can vouch for themselves, Mi Hashem, that they are consumed with and motivated only with Ahavas Hashem and not some self-serving ulterior motive? Who's ready to undertake a most precarious task while being greatly outnumbered to fearlessly uproot the spiritually infected from their midst? That means they have to be motivated only by Ahavas Hashem. So the Netziv is medayek and says, Yesh Lilmod, Haba Lirdof Es HaRasha. This is a very, very, very important point. Someone that comes to Lirdof Es HaRasha al davar shechayav be'emes mikol makom. Here is a great precaution that he cautions us. Mikol makom yesh lizaher a machlokes shelo yerdefenu mishehu sono. If the person that is coming to fight this spiritual battle has any ulterior motive and any gain that he can gain from this battle, then he's puzzled. He shouldn't get involved. V'hainu di'isa b'medrash kohelas ala pasuk v'leikim ivakesh es nirdaf. Hashem always sides with the nirdaf, with he that is being chased. Afilu tzaddik rodef rasha. Even if the person is basically a tzaddik that is trying to pursue the rasha. Perush umasha rodfo yesh hana atmis shuv ne'anash. Chas v'chalila, the person that's involved in this battle against the rasha, can he himself incur onesh on himself, chas v'sholem. Whenever this happens, whenever there's some kind of battle that has to be fought, a person has to be very, very, very careful that there's nothing that he's going to gain. If he's going to get, I think this is said about Machlokas Korach, Moshe Rabbeinu, I had to be careful because it was a question of who's going to be the leader, and he might be a Nogea B'davar, that someone that has any kind of hana, power that he gains, or monetary benefit, he cannot get involved there because he is a Nogea B'davar, Afilu Tzadik Rodef Rasha. How do we know that the Leviim were totally and completely, purely motivated? Vayomer Moshe milu yedechem hayom laHashem ki ish bivno uva'achiv v'loses alechem hayom bracha. You're only going to get bracha from this. Rashi says, milu yedechem atem ahargim osam, you that were involved in this battle, but davar zeh tischanchu lios kohanim lemakom. And the Or HaChaim expands and says, tzei umad ma'amar amzal, she'amru beistin shehayu hargim echad lezayin shanim, v'yesh omrim la'ayin shanim, haisa nekres beis din katlanis. Any beis din in Yerushalayim, the beis din gavoha, that condemned a person to death and carried it out once in 7 years even, and some say even in 70 years, is called a murderous beis din. B'nei Levi hargu b'yayim echad, and that's what we said because it's very, very, very precarious to do something like that and be very careful not to have any gain, any personal gain from that. Ubnei Levi hargu b'yom echad kegimel alfei ish. So what's the reason why this allowed them to become the Kohanim? B'zeh davar tischanchu liyos Kohanim lamakom. So the Or HaChaim proves it from the pasuk Kofitam she'amru beis din hareges achatzayin. To the end here. Achad kikan hargu chaviveim. They had to kill out people that were related to them that they loved. B'zeh yagid b'chinas haflagas ahavasam babore. If it was people that they only had reason to love them and to feel close to them, and they were ready to do what they did, it shows how much haflagas ahavasam babore. Va'od shahaya mitzios, and also considering the situation, shazulas zeh tidabek hara l'chal Yisrael, that this would that this would involve a ra for Am Yisrael. B'zeh shav Hashem echarapo. Only pure love could have empowered Shevet Levi. Only a great and passionate, unadulterated love for Hashem and for His people could have given Shevet Levi the koach to stand up to their closest family members and fearlessly defy their most basic instincts in order to protect the eternity of Klal Yisrael. This love for Hashem, and this is also important, didn't come by itself. We saw that at the end of Sefer Bereshis it wasn't so clear, but it had been tended throughout the long, difficult years in Mitzrayim by an ongoing quest and commitment to study Hashem's Torah and to emulate His ways. And at this point, I just have to say, we're talking about Limud Torah, so we have the Limud Torah, and we also have today the unbelievable Mesiras Nefesh and Kiddush Hashem of all of our Chayalim. So we need both. But indeed I say, Levi equals love. Misharse Hashem. It wouldn't be a surprise to me to discover that the actual word in English, love, has some kind of root in the name of Levi. Leah Imenu, remember, exclaimed upon the birth of her third son, Hapa'am yilaveh ishi elai. Doesn't that sound like love? I think so. And we go back to Rashi. The Tamati, Shabukulam ksiv kar'a vatikra in Lashon Nekeva, v'zeh kasub bo kar'a, v'yesh medrash Haggadah, be'ela dvarim rabba, sheshalach HaKadosh Baruch Hu Gavriel v'hevio lefanav, he brought the baby, I guess, baby Levi, in front of Hashem, v'kara lo shem zeh, and he called his name Levi. So who is he called? Is it Gavriel, or maybe it's even HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chvodo u'ba'atzmo? So this is what stands up. Shevet Levi, we said, it's an ongoing process of commitment and investment. And this is what stands up for our people in face of chaos, panic, and breakdown. Ki einayich yonim, Rashi says on Shir Hashem, tzadikim yesh biyadech, shadavku bi, ki yonazu, shemishe makeres es ben zuga, eina manichato, she's daveg la'acher. The Yonah is a mashal Am Yisrael, or nimshalim to Yonim, who once they cleave to their mate, they never leave them for anyone else. Right. So I want to end off with a beautiful quote from the Tzor Hamor. The Tzor Hamor is the grandfather-in-law of the Beis Yosef. Beledas Levi Kasub Hapam Yilavei Shielai Ki Aladati Lo Shlosha Banim Al Ken Kara Shmo Levi Leah Hatzadekes Ra'asa B'mara Nevua Ech Levi Hu Geza Nivchar Va'asid Lihios Kadosh Hashem Makriv Karbanos Al Mizbecho Umora HaTorah La'amo Ad Shebesibas Kol Zeh Hu Morid Hashchina Lamata Umekasher Es Yisrael Im Avihim Shabashamayim. So Levi, the Lashon of Chibur, of Ahava, they are the ones that their destiny is to be Makriv Karbanos. Maybe that's a reference to the holy Chayalim of today that are Moser Nefesh, Umora HaTorah La'amo, and also teach Torah. We see that Shevet Levi are Torah teachers of Torah Ad Hayom Hazeh. And the Aderas Eliyahu was a parish written by the Ben Ish Chai, Ubazeh Yuvan B'Siyata Dishmaya Remez hapasuk ata hapam yilaveh ishi elai. Hine de efshar lirmos b'siyata d'shmaya. B haben harishon shehu Ruvain remez lebayis rishon. Okay, and he goes to explain how. Lebayis rishon haya nigla bo kvod hashchina yoser misha achar kach bayis sheni shechasar mimenu chamisha dvarim hanoraim. B'Shimon remez lebayis sheni shehaya bo shlitas. So he says, Reuven hapam ahavani ishi. So that's there was Ava. I'll read it. I'll continue reading here. Bayisheni Shimon remez lebayisheni shehaya bo shlitas malchei paras. Kisnu anaychi kilachena ya yored esh al mizbeach kidmuskela v'zeh Shimon sham avon. Levi remez lebayish shlishe sheyibana b'mher v'yameinu amen ken yoratan. Ki Levi remez lechibur v'livu Yisrael im hashchina shetamid yu mechubarim yachad. V'chein, and here he expands. V'chein amra gabe Reuven ki ata yehavani ishi. Yehavani ishi sheyisrael sheba oisei dor hayu ahuvim lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yisrael amra ki ata yehavani ishi. Shimon shehu remez lebayisheni amra ki shama Hashem ki snua anechi shebebinyan bayisheni hayu Yisrael snuim etal umas ha'olam shebachol yom hayu kosrim aleim sitna l'malchei paras. We know that by Yesheni the construction was interrupted a few times because of the Shemrainim that wrote the sitna to malchei paras. Also the Jews in the diaspora hayusnuim be'enei ha'umah. So hayacherpas adam lokeach kol ha'nikra b'shem Yehudi. Anyone that was called a Jew, there was anti-Semitism by Yesheni. L'chein amra ki shama Hashem ki snua anochi vayiten li gam et zeh v'gabe Levi shehu remez lebayish shlishe sheyibana b'mhera v'yameinu amen ken yiratzon amra ata yilave isha elai sheyadua shehu shebayish shlishi hu kayam la'ad v'lo yechorev v'hin acharav shibud ela tiskayim hamelucha biyad Yisrael v'yu Yisrael tamid ochlim al shulchan avinu shebashamayim v'lochein amra ilaveh ishi elai kaviyachal HaKadosh Baruch Hu elai. So we end with the bracha that we should very soon be zoche to bayish shlishi shehu kayam la'ad u'la'olam v'lo yechorev and Elatis Kaim Hamlucha Biyad Yisrael. Kadosh Baruch Hu should watch over all the Chayalim and keep strong all the Lomdei Umalamdei Torah and b'schus the Mesirus Nefesh of all of Am Yisrael in its entirety. Ishi Elai, the Eish HaKarbonos, that there should be no more Karbonos. And the Eish of the Torah, we should be Zocha to Nitzachon Gadol and Yeshua and all the hostages should Uftuye Hashem Yeshuvun Uvau Tzion Berina B'Simchas Olam Al Rosham Amen Keni Hiratzon.